What is going on, guys? Jack here, and welcome to a tips and tricks video here on Football Manager 2013. So yes, after the previous success of my previous tips and tricks video that people seem to really appreciate, and having gone on Reddit and asked what people wanted to see on the Football Manager subreddit, I'm back with another guide for you guys today covering centre-backs, all about centre-backs. So I'm Manchester United for the benefit of this example, just because they have two of the most prolific centre-backs in Football Manager. And I'm going to be talking about the duties and roles that centre-backs play, and then in the second half of this video we're going to be covering free centre-backs, because that's something that the person who made the original request about centre-backs, they wanted me to go into detail a little bit about how you can make free central defenders work. So the two ways you can really play your centre-backs effectively is to have either what I've got on screen now, which is two centre-backs with the duties on defend, or one other option is to go with the covering centre-back and the stopping centre-back. Now, to show you the difference, I'm going to be comparing Rio Ferdinand and Vidic here. But basically, Vidic and Rio Ferdinand are one of the most prolific examples in real life, as well as I guess in Football Manager, of a stopper and coverer combination. Another good example is John Terry and Rio Ferdinand for England when they played together at centre-backs. So the idea of the stopper and coverer is that, in this case, Vidic, the stopper, who is more kind of bossy in the air and aerially, is going to sit slightly in front of Rio Ferdinand, and he's the guy who's dominant in the air, going to win the ball, going for tackles aggressively and really shake up and, I guess, batter the opposition attack. Ferdinand's role as the coverer is to read the passes through by the opposition team. Any through balls he's there to mop up. He's more athletic than Vidic. Basically, your coverer is the more athletic of your centre-backs, so the player who's speedy and can mop up the play. So that's the difference between a stopper and a coverer. The way you can employ them in Football Manager is to have a stopper and then a coverer. And Vidic is going to mop up anything in the air. He's going to come into this area here, and if anything's in the air, goal kick, something like that, he is there to win the ball. Whereas Ferdinand sits off slightly, not quite like a sweeper, but what he's going to do is he's going to be there to mop up any balls over the top or any balls along the ground that make their way through, and he's going to be the one chasing the speedy attacker. Now, this is the, I guess, more obvious option. The other option is just to go with two traditional centre-backs, you know, have two defenders with their defence set as duty, with their two duties set as defence. I recommend this if you've got two defenders with fairly even attributes, or if you've got two players that are very similar, who are your centre-backs, and maybe neither of them are amazing in the air, so rather than playing them both as coverers, or alternatively playing one as coverer and one as a weak stopper, you know, switch them round. So that's the basics behind the duties. I'm going to cover the roles now, which is, there's three roles that a central defender can play. There's the central defender role, the ball playing defender, or the limited defender. As we see, Ferdinand here is currently playing central defender, and for a central defender, the attributes which are important to a player are highlighted here. So as you can see, heading, marking, tackling, composure, concentration, decisions, determination, positioning, jumping and strength are all important. Please bear in mind that as I change the role, the highlighted areas are going to change, but they do also change when you change the duty. However, I've just covered the differences and the general outline, so you can see a coverer needs to have more pace and more anticipation, reading the play and being able to run quick, whereas a stopper needs better aggression, and I prefer to have a stopper who's slightly better in the air. But anyway, moving on with the difference between central defenders, ball playing defenders and limited defenders. Now, a central defender is your standard centre back, going to tackle. When he wins the ball, he's going to look to play it out if possible, and if in doubt, he's just going to hoof it out. You've then come on to your ball playing defender. The difference between a ball playing defender and a traditional defender is that they'll stop and look to play the ball and be slightly creative with it. A good example is Rio Ferdinand for England. He does a really good job when he plays for England, who like to build up play from the back, of, you know, England play it back to their defence, play it along their back four, and very often you'll see Rio Ferdinand picking out a really good pass. So that's kind of the role of a ball-playing defender. They look to get the ball and play it to the free men and be a slightly more creative centre-back. It works well if you're playing a formation which is patient and you're doing short passes and you're trying to work it out from the back. The final role the defender can play is a limited defender. This is a defender who's good at defending, and that's it. Their main role is to, I guess, hoof it out. Suits maybe if you have a slightly weaker defender alongside a strong defender to have a player like this. So if your player's, say, strong in heading, marking, tackling, determination, positioning, strength and jumping, which are the main areas of a central defender, you might not necessarily want to play him as a regular central defender because that requires composure, concentration and decisions, which obviously it's a slightly more technically gifted kind of centre-back. So that's the difference between the 3 different roles that you have as options for your centre-backs on Football Manager. As for the duties, just a little thing that I'd advise is I prefer to either play with a stopper and coverer or a defender and defender. The reason I don't like to use a cover and defender is I don't feel it works as well and it's not as accomplished. So that's the difference there. One other thing I'd say is that the cover and defender, what are we doing here? What are we doing? The cover and defender, having a covering and a stopper works well against not so good teams who are either going to hoof it up or just try and kick one over the top. If you're playing a really good creative team, a team like Barcelona where they're going to work the ball up as a team and pass it short rather than just hitting it up to their top men, I recommend playing with 2 just regular defenders. That way, you know, they're more of a flat back four as opposed to one sitting slightly behind the other. But anyway, guys, I don't want to ramble on for too long about this, so let's get straight on to playing with 3 centre-backs in your team. So this is part 2 of this little video. I'm going to be talking about playing with 5 at the back and 3 in central defence. So you don't always have to play with 5 at the back. I have seen formations work where you don't need 5 at the back. In fact, I think I have one of these archived from ages ago. Let me check. I think it's this one from like a few Football Managers ago. But basically, this is one example of trying to play with 3 at the back. It basically relies on the premise that you have a really decent anchor man. And you've got a fairly decent midfield, and what this allows is some creative freedom from your midfield, whilst what happens is your defenders are able to spread themselves wide and move with the play from left to right, and then the central midfielders act as almost a shield here and are able to spread themselves wide to stop any effect. So that's one way you can play with 3 at the back. I've never had any major success with it, although if you've got the right players it can work. So 3-1-4-2 is one option. The more kind of conventional, and I guess what most people are going to be associating, is a 3-5-2 of some description, be that with 3 centre-backs and then a flat 5 midfield, or in this case 2 wing-backs. So the way I like to approach this and the way that I use this in this save of mine is I play with 2 covering defenders and 1 stopper. So essentially Cathcart sits slightly in front. It's like a slight kind of zigzag. He's not quite playing a holding midfielder, but he's kind of there, you know, in and about. So he plays as my stopper, and just to further reinforce the idea of the stopper and everything, this is Craig Cathcart. He has no creativity, so he should be set to limited defender. I don't think I've actually got him set there. But as you can see, good aerial presence, good defending. Not the best speed, but a half-decent defender nevertheless. And he's my limited defender because he has no creativity. As for Basong and Hubakan, I leave these 2 guys just as standard centre-backs. They're good at what they do. You can see by their stats. Basong's a really well-rounded off centre-back who's kind of balanced in all areas, whereas Hubakan is another almost exact mirror image of Basong. He's not got the aerial presence, and that's why I don't like playing him as stopper, but he has the speed and defending and anticipation to read the game and cover. So when you come to play 3 at the back with tactics, if you're going to play with the say Wolf and Martin up here, and then maybe Tetty holding or just sitting there, it's usually best to play with the control philosophy and use your crowded out central midfield, assuming you've got strong midfielders, to control the play, not let them have a lot of possession so your defender's not on the back foot. The other way you can line up with 3 at the back is 5-3-2, and this is what I prefer. It plays on the premise that we're going to be playing rigid and defensively and trying to hit on the counter. We're not playing off sides because we're going to be sitting with a fairly deep line and we're not going to want to push up too much. We're using reasonable width and we're going to try and break quickly. And basically we're going to be using the whole idea of we defend well as a unit, then we can get the ball up to Joe Laloc, whose name I can't pronounce, but that was my attempt at it, who is our target man. He's going to hold up the play and all our players are going to charge up and give him as much support as they can. So if we look at his attribute, in fact no, if we go to his profile, highlight key attributes for target man, you can see he's an ideal player for holding up the ball. Pretty decent stats in jumping, strength and heading, decent first touch, decent finishing and good teamwork. So he sits up there on his own. Mason drops slightly in as a deep lying forward into the area just behind him. Tetty's going to drop into this gap here when we don't have possession, whilst King and Howson provide the kind of role of running like headless chickens up and down following the ball. But what this does is it makes it really difficult to break you down when playing with these three defenders. You could play with a flat back five. The problem with this is it doesn't really give you any attacking presence. However, if you're going to try and park the bus, you can try playing with these three, I guess, players. One problem with playing with three regular defenders that I found in centre-back is that they all do the same thing. And one of the main ideas of playing with three centre-backs is that you have three strong centre-backs, but perhaps three centre-backs who all have their own strengths and stuff. So that's how I like to play my three centre-backs. The other thing I'd say is when it comes to playing your two outer centre-backs, try and put them on the side that they're footed. So Thomas in this case is right-footed and Basong is left-footed. What you'll find very often is, say we get hit on the break from us countering on them, so Wolf's up here, Martin's up here, and the ball drops over Wolf and it's coming in this area here. Basong's going to be here on his left foot ready to sweep anything up and just clear it out. And what will happen is Basong covers the left as he drops in to cover any threat, and then your defenders are going to move across to create what would be a traditional back two, and then your wing backs can drop back into this space here. But anyway, I don't want to ramble for too long. That's how I use three central defenders. Hopefully this clarifies it up for those of you who are asking. I hope this video helped. You get to understand centre-backs better. Of course, if you don't let in a goal in football, you can't lose. And other than that, guys, thank you for watching. It's been me, Jack, and I'm out. I'll talk to you in a bit.